What is going on, my YouTube friends? It's my video of the day, so it's some breaking news. So basically, Texas just unleashed a new Bitcoin strategic reserve, right? So they just bought $10 million worth of IBIT, so the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF, right? And this is really big news. Stay tuned, and I'll tell you why this is big news and how this will probably change the whole landscape for investing in Bitcoin in general, right? So, yeah, definitely consider subscribing if you like Bitcoin or MSTR or Tesla or AI or robotics or any of this kind of stuff. Please also like the video. Brings my video to more people, as well as let me know your Bitcoin price targets for the end of the year. Okay, so this is a big deal. Texas buying $10 million worth of Bitcoin is a gigantic deal, guys. It's it just shows that like legislation can actually be enacted and then can actually be enforced, right? So like the law passed that they were able to purchase up to like $21 million worth of Bitcoin, and then so far they've acquired $10 million worth of IBIT, right? For the state of Texas, using publicly taxpayer funds, publicly allocated, publicly fundraised funds. So that's it's a very big deal. If you look at the rest of the country, the rest of the U.S., and you look at how many other states are like in the midst of buying Bitcoin or getting legislation and laws passed, it's actually kind of mind-boggling, right? So there's two other states, New Hampshire and Arizona, that already have some sort of Bitcoin strategic reserve law passed, like literally passed. In New Hampshire, they're able to actually purchase Bitcoin, from what I can tell, basically whenever they'd like to. Now, that being said, there is market capitalization requirements for the crypto that they're going to buy. And I believe generally it's like over $500 billion is the market cap requirement for most of these states, the laws that are either in bill stage or laws. It's usually the threshold is $500 billion market cap, which we know Bitcoin definitely suffices that, and Ethereum, I believe, suffices that. If not, it's very close. XRP, I think, is actually pretty close too, and Solana to the half a trillion threshold. But yeah, like I said, New Hampshire, I believe imminently, any day of the week, or even on the Sunday, like they could, well, actually, it's an IBIT, so it's an ETF. So they're probably going to announce it during the week, right? Because they can't actually buy Bitcoin itself. They have to buy the BlackRock ETF if they want, basically one for one Bitcoin exposure. Expect to see something coming from New Hampshire in the near term future. In Arizona, they have a Bitcoin strategic reserve where basically any Bitcoin that they get from operations, or actually from basically forfeiture from illegal means, they keep that. It's kind of like what's going on with the U.S. right now, where if any sort of Bitcoin is seized from illegal operations, the U.S. keeps that, and the idea is that they're never going to sell it. And it's the same way with Arizona; they have that. So I don't think they have anything in Arizona yet to where they're actually going to use like public funds to go purchase Bitcoin. But who knows? That could be in the works, right? And there are, I believe, like 12 or 13 other states that are somewhere in the process of either having legislation within their government, their state government, that's going to either allow them to acquire Bitcoin using taxpayer funds or some sort of a strategic reserve for Bitcoin. That, guys, like if you combine them all, it's like 15, 16 states. You're talking about almost a third of the nation, right? Having something to do with, either buying Bitcoin and holding it on their reserves or, keeping the seized Bitcoin and never selling it, right? So you're talking about, like I said, a third of the United States already, just from statewide, right? And that's not even including, guys, what we've seen from the federal level, where we've already seen, like I said, the United States isn't selling any of their seized Bitcoin. And there's legislation in the Bitcoin Act that says, that's in Congress right now, as I'm making this video, that says, hey, maybe we go ahead and buy 200,000 Bitcoin a year, right, over the next 5 years, to where we accumulate 1 million Bitcoin, and we never sell it. And that's in Congress right now, right? So we've seen, this is the very first step, right? Texas is the first mover, but like there's a bunch of states that could follow suit, as well as the feds is the biggest deal. So like you've seen now just how the entire world is adopting Bitcoin, right? You've got companies such as MSTR, MicroStrategy, you've got MetaPlanet, you've got Bitmine, you've got all sorts of companies out there that are acquiring Bitcoin, Tesla, Coinbase, right? And holding it. Not even just using it as like a, like let's say a brokerage like Coinbase does or Robinhood, where they buy it essentially for their people that buy it and it just, it just hold it on the platform. No, like there's certain companies out there that are literally like I said, like Coinbase, that are just holding the Bitcoin, right? Because they presume it's going to go up very quickly, and to, if you think about it a lot, it's like if these companies are holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet rather than cash, they've made this like an investment, right? And if they're holding on to it, then it's either a short-term hold for them or a long-term hold. So why does that matter? What that matters because like they could have used anything else for this cash, right? Tesla, for example, could have bought back their shares. They could have, built another gigafactory. Like Coinbase could use that money for something else to expand on their, their brokerage operations or whatever, right? But they didn't. They actually see such, Bitcoin as such a lucrative investment that they literally go out and they buy Bitcoin and they put it on their balance sheet. That's a huge freaking deal, guys. Because like I said, if they want their stock price to go up, why wouldn't they, at the end of the day, just go buy their own shares, right? Buy their shares back. Showing confidence to the investors that, hey, our stock's undervalued. We've got all this extra cash. We're going to buy, our own stock back with it, right? That would make sense. But instead, they actually see Bitcoin as a better option for their money. That is mind-boggling, right? That's like, it's a big deal, right? These companies, some of these companies are worth hundreds of billions of dollars, if not over $1 trillion in market capitalization, right? So it's a big deal, And like I said, Texas is the first mover when it comes to states, but there's a lot of states coming behind them, and then the feds as well, right? So then we also have like the Fed chair, actually, could potentially be changed here pretty soon to a pro-Bitcoiner. So we'll see how that transpires. I'll definitely be making videos on that in the future. But yeah, guys, I just wanted to bring this breaking news to you guys saying that, hey, Texas just acquired $10 million for the Bitcoin. And there's a very, very highly likely chance that we're going to see them acquire even more Bitcoin, right? Because it's been approved that they can buy $21 million worth. They've only bought half that. Actually, technically less than half that because they've only bought 10 million, right? So, yeah, guys. Yeah, tell me what you guys think about this. I think it's remarkable. I think it's revolutionary for a whole state to actually commit to that and then actually follow through, right? We've seen a lot of good things happen with Texas. A lot of companies moving their state of incorporation from like Delaware to Texas. That's a new trend. And Texas, in a way, is becoming the new California. Ever since 2020, a lot of Californians moved, to Texas, to Florida, to Arizona, Utah, Nevada, places like that where there's less regulations. But like historically, California has been the first mover for most of this type of activity. Like let's say like legalizing gay marriage, as well as like legalizing recreational marijuana. These types of things. Usually, it's California that's super innovative. Super progressive. Let's put it that way. They're the ones to be the first movers. But actually, we see Texas take the Bitcoin crown, right? And so I'm just happy. I'm just very, very happy, guys. It hasn't moved Bitcoin a whole lot. I think Bitcoin's still around 87K as of me making this video. But it just shows how much support Bitcoin has for a state to finally come out and actually purchase a lot of Bitcoin, right? $10 million is nothing to joke at. It's not like needle moving as far as, because Bitcoin's got over a $2 trillion market cap, but it's just a revolutionary move for a state to finally hold Bitcoin on its balance sheet, see the value associated with Bitcoin and hold it, right? And like I said, I think it's just the first mover. I think we're going to see Texas itself buying a lot more, as well as, state after state after state buying more Bitcoin. And then eventually you're going to see some sort of Bitcoin Act come from Congress, right? And that's the hyperscaler. That's the big one. That's the big boy, right? Where it's like, how many Bitcoin are the feds going to buy, right? They say they're going to do it in a budget neutral way to not use taxpayer funds to try to fund this Bitcoin strategic reserve. But, that's like, at the end of the day, it's somewhat semantics, right? The big deal is that the feds are going to buy Bitcoin and they're going to hold on their balance sheet. However, which way they do it, I don't really care. What it boils down to is the U.S. has a lot of debt, and there's a good possibility they could pay off a lot of this debt with, you know, some Bitcoin gains, right? Let alone all the other things like, you know, there's there's stuff in Congress basically talking about, hey, we might not tax capital gains on Bitcoin because it's, it depends on if it's established as a currency or not, right? So if you just hold this currency, you shouldn't be taxed in U.S. dollars from holding a currency because it went up with respect to the U.S. dollar. It's just a currency, and you held it for however long, right? So, yeah, guys, it's let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. I had to make this breaking news video because it's just it's a big deal, guys. Let me know how big of a deal you guys think it is. Let me know if you live in Texas. Let me know if you approve of Texas buying all this Bitcoin. Let me know if you think other states are gonna follow suit. What you think about the Bitcoin Act that is in the feds right now in Congress. Let me know what all you guys think about all this stuff, and definitely don't forget to subscribe and like the video. All right, guys, have a great night.